209
Oh,
Petra-Canada on the corner, but I don't know if they're open still. Yeah, we haven't bought gas since January.
Yeah, you've got that hybrid that gives you
Yeah,
enough
I
range
used
for
some
all
gas
your
tonight.
errands.
The batteries are dead.
My wife was telling me somebody, what do you call it when you borrow the car type thing?
Yeah.
And he drove all the way to manufacturing. It cost him a total of $19.
Yep. Yep, that's pretty typical.
I filled it on Saturday before the gas prices went way sky high.
Are they at 220 now in Victoria?
More or less.
Yeah.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah. And what's down here is Kaiser.
We'll just start in a few moments. Just waiting for a few people to show up.
This is all.
Okay.
Yeah, it sure comes alive.
Chairs back here and chairs on the rack, or come and join us up here.
Oh, there's a nice tub chair right here.
Yeah, there you go.
Fall asleep.
Ooh, that's a show, isn't it?
Inches across, and that's the bush. About 30 blossoms on it this year. It's just,
So I just want to do a sound check. If I talk like this, is it very clear?
Loud,
Yep.
loud and clear.
Loud and clear.
Is it very clear? Can you hear me? So you should do a presentation voice.
The tree
Yeah.
guys took care of that last 2 years. So.
Yeah.
Look at all those lazy so-and-sos who didn't bother coming to the meeting in person.
A whole bunch of people can't afford to get here now.
I see one of them lives in Sydney, that would be, and the other one lives in Brentwood Bay. I wouldn't want to pay the gas.
You can bicycle.
Yeah, there we go.
Well, when you start serving beer and wine, then I'll be there.
Yeah, dream on.
Yeah.
Guess I'll have to BYOB.
Great. Well, I think we'll get started tonight. I don't have too many people speaking, so we may end up with a more kind of spontaneous conversation about things as the night progresses. Although you can't see her on our main screen, Margie is sitting across from me over there, and she's monitoring the sound level. So because we want to make sure that, especially the people who are in this room, if you're going to speak, project, because the microphone's over there. And luckily it's not a huge room, but we want to make sure. So use a presentation voice because we want to include everybody. If we get into a conversation mode, I was going to say the other thing is, with the people on Zoom, put your hand up if you know how to do that. So I know who would like to speak, and we'll do the same here so we can kind of go back and forth, because I don't want one group to dominate.
Right.
So we'll see how that goes tonight if we end up in a conversation. So one person who did want to speak to us tonight is Lauri. And so if you're ready, Lauri, you could take it away.
Well, I'd like to do this along with David Lee. David, would you open up your time? Because I think between the two of us, we've got an awful lot of thanks to give to everybody. It was amazing how everybody came together so well in all the different places and all the different parts and the leads. And David just went absolutely above and beyond of things that you never even knew was happening, but he was doing them anyway. And I'm sure, I mean, for everybody, everybody that's kind of, on here, just to thank you for all the work that you did in person, hauling tables, getting equipment, preparing for the programs, and then being there, some of you all day, some of you all night. And it really made a huge difference. So I just want to give my thanks. Obviously we couldn't have done anything without you. So David, I don't know if you have anything else you'd like to say, but that's.
Well, it was just really heartening to see everybody together. I think that we say a lot about wanting to be in person, but until you're back to it again, you don't realize how much you miss actually. And
Yeah.
it was an amazing experience. I could really see everybody was really engaged, and that was really good too. And so many new people too. Like I was really pleased that there was that level of discovery and engagement with the public. So perfect. Kudos to everybody. We certainly could not have done any of this without all of you.
Mhm.
And big
And
thank you.
we got to meet some people in person that we'd only ever seen little squares before. So I didn't even recognize Brian. It was unbelievable. It was really kind of fun.
Or Margie, I guess, recruited a 10-year-old helper for the kids' table. So her and her mother came, and they were both thrilled. She sent me an email. I passed it on to
Oh, good.
Margie. So that was kind of special. The young crowd.
Mhm. And Nathan, I don't think Nathan's on here, but Nathan came and was outside in the at the Ask an Astronomer booth, which was really a delight to have him there. We had a number of students from UVic who came, and I was kind of a little bit laughing because oh, for heaven's sake, Shawnigan Lake, Nigel came from Shawnigan Lake with two young men, all dressed in their uniforms, everything. They came and they proceeded to go and watch every one of the presentations, and they went to watch the IMAX by himself for the day. But he was thrilled to have them come because he said they just don't get a chance to do those kind of things. So he was quite thrilled. But Dorothy, Bill, Ryan, Chris, we missed you, Reg. We did. Brock, Margie, oh my gosh, yes, everybody there. It was Sid, who sat outside forever. David, who did everything. Jim at the table. Like
Hey,
everybody.
Sid, would you say a few words? That was a pretty amazing performance by your crew out at the front of the
Yes.
museum.
Yeah.
I have to unmute myself first. Yeah. It was a great experience for us at the sidewalk. Literally, it was a sidewalk astronomy for us. We were Leanne actually was trying to catch anyone going trying to leave us. We were bring them back into viewing the sun and the prominences and the sunspots. Yeah, we were thrilled actually with the weather.
Oh,
We could not have asked a better weather. What we were having the week before, the day before, and it was completely surprising. And thanks to Les and Alex and Leanne and Nathan, and also from Jim from Commotion College, and they contributed.
Leslie as well.
Yeah, Les. Yeah.
Les. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I call it Les.
Yeah.
Hello, Leslie, if he's there. Yeah. No, it was just wonderful. Yeah, and it was a good crowd, and also in the evening was wonderful. And it's thanks again to Lauri and David. Could not have asked a better group organizing this event. Yeah, it was fantastic. And also I was quite surprised to see new people who we see them on the little images and they say, gee, they look short, or they're not that tall, or they're fat, or they're supposed to be thick. Yeah,
it's all those filters. It's all those filters we use.
Yeah, it was thrilled. We were thrilled to have this event done. Yeah, we just for newcomers, we started this International Astronomy Day in 2000, the first time at the museum, and this event it started that's okay, we should get a permission from the museum to set up our telescope at the sidewalk. And they say, oh yeah, you could do that too. Well, why don't you do it inside? Okay, well, we didn't know whether you will allow us. So this is the way it happened originally, and we are thrilled to have it's a good site. Museum is a good site because the public is easy for the public to access their spot here. Yeah, or hopefully the next year we will do this same thing again, and exciting.
I think Dorothy has her hand up.
Dorothy has her hand up, so she's the next speaker.
I just agree with everything that's been said, and would like to add, I think it was great indoors, the mix of others, people, and particularly we were right next to the Ope High, and having these groups join with us in this venue, I think really kind of spreads the word through the community about everything that RASC does, including lights, studying lights, and trying to. And I had a very interesting conversation with the Ope High teacher who was still preparing his final lectures, which is a very good sign. He's not doing a cookbook job out here. And so that feature, I think, is something that's really, we missed for the 2 years that 2 years that we didn't have it. And this year, maybe because there are fewer people, I noticed it even more than in previous years. So, but thanks again to Lauri and Bill and Joe and everybody else, because I thought it was a very, very good session, and with very seems to be very appreciative public, whether because it's new after the delay or there really has been a change of heart. So it's very good.
Yeah, Dorothy, I just checked. It was Vic High. It wasn't Ope.
That was Vic High.
Did I say Vic High?
Oh, you said Ope.
Ope. It was Vic
Ope.
High that was there with Jonathan Guillen. So
it was which? Was Ope.
No, it was Vic High that was there.
They do an astronomy class as well.
Yes, yeah, he teaches astronomy 11.
Okay.
Yeah.
My mistake.
Yeah, it's okay.
We had several conversations because you were right, shoulder to
Next
shoulder.
door, right.
Yeah, and his students were good as well.
Mm-hmm.
Reg, you have your hand up.
Yes, first of all, Vic High, we never falter, we never die. I've got a question for Sid. I said, do you know how many Galileo moments occurred? You're not muted. You're muted.
Let me unmute myself. More than 800, Reg.
That's excellent.
Excellent. It's a 231 outside and 600 some 54 odd inside. So it was a good crowd.
And how many up at the observatory?
I think Lauri probably has a better idea about.
Well, we had it was definitely over 100. It was actually a manageable crowd as far as I was concerned. It wasn't too much. We had 29 volunteers between the RASC and the FDAO, so that was a really good crowd. Chris did a fabulous job with two presentations. Thank you so much, Chris. It was excellent. Bill was out on the pad or out on the deck all night, even when at the very beginning he was being blown away with the wind that was up there, but he stayed out all night, which was fabulous. And Sherry was able to come up and open up the 16 for a little bit to see what was happening there. We do need to do a little bit of work on the 16. It has been shut for 2.5 years, so needs a little bit of maintenance. But Clint and Melissa Tupper came up and manned the RASC table wonderfully. and that worked out really well. No, we had a little bit of a hiccup at the very beginning because the Eventbrite site, we couldn't access the Eventbrite site down at the bottom of the hill. So we couldn't check everybody in the regular way we do. So we were just taking names, and it worked out, but it was a little bit of a problem. And we thank, my goodness, Calvin Schmidt and Ben Dorman, who was able to get the internet to work at about 3 o'clock on Saturday afternoon, after 8 weeks or so of the NRC being down and not having a public facing internet. But we finally got everything organized, and Chris actually did a live streamed presentation from the Dome at the 8 o'clock show. So that was our first. It won't be our last, but we'll do that. So the other thing, David, I think that I hope I'm not saying out of turn, but it would be really nice to have a little bit of some time to just have a meeting at which anybody that would like to come of lessons learned. And
yeah, I was definitely planning on doing that.
yeah, and just anybody that wanted to kind of come in and just give their feedback, totally, that's what we need to do for this, to do this again. So
yeah, we've actually received a bit of feedback already through the thank you note that I sent out last night. But yeah, definitely, I'd love to have a lessons learned. The other thing I mentioned in that note was that I plan on sort of building a simple handbook for the event in hopes that somebody else might want to try their hand at it. So not that I'm trying to give it away, but yeah, so it's not it is a complex thing, but I think it's manageable, and it is rewarding to see everything come together. So
yeah,
I highly recommend somebody trying this next time. I'm just going to put all the things together in one place. So if anybody feels the mood when that time comes again, then maybe you can lead it.
I have a couple of things I wanted to say.
Sure, Chris.
And I was working with David Payne on some of the publicity, and I think generally it came off pretty good. I was quite happy with it, and thanks to Dave, and I was happy to meet him at last. Although, it's so discombobulating with these damn masks and everything else. He came up to me a couple of times and I didn't know who he was, but it was also, it's just also, this is after a couple of years, it's a whole new context. And I was sort of inside the whole time doing my talks that evening. And it wasn't until I went outside that I realized, that there was actually a lot of observing happening out there. I knew people were sitting up their scopes, but God knows what the weather was. One other thing is that everybody was really worn out at the end of it, so nobody wanted to go to Timmy's with me. So I went down to Timmy's and discovered that they closed at 11. So this is one of the effects of the pandemic and the labor shortage. So I don't know, we'll have to put that in abeyance for a while, I guess, until things really get back to normal. Although actually the guy there took pity on me and gave me a couple of Timbits, free Timbits. And I want to talk a little bit about my books. So there's a few people. Some people have got my books through the mail, and through various routes. And I'd like to say hello to Ron. I think he's one of those people. And but there's some who don't have it. And I'm probably going to be down in Fairfield next week. In spite of the price of gas, I do have to come down to Victoria every now and then. And So I'll probably bring a few books with me, if there's people who are still looking for one. And then subsequent to that, I'll be coming down to the events up on the hill, and as long as I have some extra books and there's sort of people from here who are looking for them or just looking for an autograph. A lot of people have actually sent away for them already. So anyway, that's what I have to say. And maybe later on, I got a few words about JWST.
Great, thank you. I think Randy wanted to say a few words.
So one, I want to talk about the 4 talks in the Newcomb Theatre. Went very well. We were getting about 40 people each time. There were some people that went to all 4 talks. They were really interested in that. And it just went very smoothly. And the other thing that we haven't got to mention yet is David did a great job with the national podcast that in the afternoon. So he recorded me right after Astro Cafe last week. The moon was out, and so I called him, and he rushed down with all his equipment. And I don't know when he got a chance to do Bill, but it was a great segment with Bill. And then it just built perfectly. It was early on in the podcast, and I think it really set the stage for it. And then that's right, Lauri was there up in the center of the universe. I thought you were doing it just with a telephone or something, because I didn't think you had the internet. But
we had Dave and Bill. Dave and Bill came were there.
Right, it was there, yeah. And Bill came in with this hat. So kudos all around. I would like to ask, I guess, Sid, you're probably the person who knows the history the best, but given the pandemic and all that, where was this in terms of the sort of numbers of people compared to previous years?
We cannot compare the pre-COVID numbers and these numbers. These are fantastic. This year was a great great attendance, everyone, but it's difficult because we were only a short period of time, 10 to 3 versus 10 to 4. And it makes a big difference to 10 to 5 sometimes. Yeah. So the duration of Astronomy Day today was quite short. Considering that, I think we had a great attendance.
I was going to say there was one other factor this year too, is the museum is greatly reduced from what it has been. So I'm sure attendance is down quite greatly. So there would be people going to the IMAX, but maybe not so many people intending to go to the museum with the 3rd floor gone.
No, in the last years, not last year, but the number of years before that, our attendance was very close to 2,000, 1,700, 1,800. So it varied, yeah.
Wow, that's fantastic. Well, that's what we aspire to for next year.
Yeah.
Well, you have to also realize that if you started getting another whole set of people in there, even as it was, like it would have been so crowded, you wouldn't have been able to have moved if you had 1,500 people going through there. So
I think the 600 odd people that were through there were taxing that space. Yeah, as it was.
There was probably about as many as you'd want.
Yeah,
I
I
would
don't
think.
think so.
yeah.
2,000 before.
Well, just packed.
We had a bigger space to work with.
It was bigger.
And we also, they were packed in. I mean.
And we had longer hours.
Yeah, and we had longer hours.
Wow.
But I think that the hours, actually, I know Sid, you would go on forever. I know that. But I think that the 5 hours was actually very, very easily done. I don't think anybody was, like when you start going 6 hours. You know, it's a little bit longer, and we were able to completely break down within about half an hour. Like it was pretty well done. And thank you to 2 or 3 people who stayed behind and helped move tables and chairs and put everything together. Like it was wonderful. And so we did it really quickly. It was really quite good. And to be perfectly honest, by the time I left at 4, there was hardly anybody left in the museum. It was actually quite empty by the you know, just people weren't around at all. So I don't know whether or not, you know, that's just maybe what's happening at the museum right now, is there weren't as many people. So
Yep.
Another thing to consider is that there was only one cruise ship in port on Saturday.
that's right. Yes.
Yeah, we didn't get any cruise ship passengers that I detected. They were all locals. Not a bad thing. But it explained the numbers.
Yeah.
But in past, we've had a lot
Yeah.
of.
Oh, yeah.
numbers come through, yeah.
Jim, did you want to say something? I've noticed you've unmuted.
I think it was a very high quality experience. And I think the size, the number of exhibitors, it worked extremely well. I suspect we had more customer engagement and satisfaction than perhaps at some of our previous very large ones. It was not intimidating to look at it from the as you came into the hall. And I also thought it was genius to put the children's activities right next to the welcoming table. It immediately gave the impression families were welcome.
Yeah.
David Payne.
Yeah, I just wanted to remark that the numbers aren't everything. I met 2 people standing out at the front desk. One was a fairly recent immigrant from India who was a psychologist and who had done astronomy in India and was surprised to know that this organization exists and was talking about the things she had done and was anxious to join us. So and then another one, a businessman stands out. He was from Quebec, and he was in town. I guess he was just killing a Saturday, but he was just so impressed. He couldn't stop talking about how impressed he was by the whole thing. So just thought I'd pass that on.
Yeah, I had one fellow that I knew show up, and his wife's telescope doesn't work. So I have offered to get together with her for Cattle Point sometime in the next month or so for a scope clinic.
Good.
Sorry, we missed that a little bit. Sorry, Dave.
It's just, there was one fellow I knew who came by, and his wife has had problems with her getting her telescope set up. So I'm going to set up a date with her to meet at Cattle Point and give her a quick scope clinic. So it was a good opportunity to make those kinds of connections.
Right. Thank you. No. Fantastic. And we missed people who weren't there. So. All right, I think that's it, David?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it was a good experience all around.
Yeah.
So you'll send out information about the meeting that you want to have?
Yeah, we'll do kind of a lessons learned, maybe in the next few days, maybe, while it's still fresh in our minds.
If you haven't been to previous meetings, perhaps, what should they do, email you, David?
Yeah. Why don't you do that? Anybody who's interested, send along just send me an email, and then I'll let you know when it happens.
Great. Well, thank you again, everyone. And our next person is Randy, who wanted to follow up on some photos we saw a while ago.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is not at all prepared, but I was very taken by the Gary and John images last week, especially of M33, the Triangulum, galaxies. So I did some reading, and I gather you did too. So can you show your recently processed picture and
I think I'll share the screen.
also, say what you did new with it?
Well, I presume the ones you want to see are these two.
The ones that show the bubbles.
Sorry, Joe, I'm messing you up. I'm doing it from here.
Oh, okay, go for it. I'll stop bopping around.
So this is
dual hosts.
this is one, and the next one is the annotated data, so you can see what things are what. I can blow up bits of it if you like.
Yeah, okay, so
you go ahead.
Well, what I didn't even know how to Google this at first. I knew it's H alpha, so I looked up M33 H alpha, and then I saw that the term that is being used is H2 region, and that's an H, big H, and then 2 capital I's, and it's pronounced H2 region of star formation. And I was asking about it and to some people, and it wasn't clear what H2. An H2 region means a bunch of protons, because H1 means neutral hydrogen. H2 done with 2 I's means that it's ionized. And once you ionize a hydrogen, that's just a proton. And a proton by itself doesn't send out any light. You don't get H alpha from H2. But where you have H2, you also have H1, and those H1s are able to get excited, and then electrons drop back down and give off the light. But it's also sometimes called what's it called? Molecular cloud, a GMC. What's the G? GMC. Anyway, you get a whole bunch of H2, but in that case it's H and a little 2, because it's molecular hydrogen. So they're all going on at the same time. It's called an H2 region, I think, because that is particularly good for making new stars. And it's considered very high density because it is measured in, is it thousands, millions, billions of these per cubic centimeter, but that's still considered a high vacuum in a lab on Earth. But in space, that's considered very high, and that's where the stars are forming.
Randy, the G is giant.
Giant molecular cloud.
Yeah.
Okay, Jim Hesse.
So, but I'm still not settled about the bubbles, the shells, and they can you blow it up maybe into to see where you get those shells? And
there's several of them. Here's one up too. Right here.
Oops, oh, it is a shockwave. It's the one on the top has 2.
It's definitely
Another one up here.
So it's maybe.
yeah, I love that one at the top.
That has 2 shockwaves.
This one, if you were in M33, this might look like, you have to think about the color, it would be red. But this would be like the Barnard's loop on steroids.
Okay, so Barnard's loop is how many minutes, or it would not be a degree apart. Oh no, it is bigger than a degree, isn't it?
Oh yeah,
It's huge.
It's like the size of Orion itself, isn't it? So what would that be? Be about 3 degrees?
Not that big, but
A couple of degrees anyway.
but a good
I'm just
fraction
wondering
of-
whether it
good fraction
scales.
of a degree.
You could actually work out how big these are. Oh, and a thing that I remember seeing in some videos, when you see a ring in space, it usually is not anything that is ring-like. It is mostly, it's a bubble, but where you've got it, where the bubble is closest to you, you're just looking through the gas, whereas around the edge, then you're looking through a whole bunch of that gas. And so what is apparently a ring, you have to think of it as a three-dimensional bubble, which I find delightful.
That little one at the top is actually multiple bubbles.
But is it a supernova? Does it always have a star
supernova-
inside which is irradiating it? And
A supernova would have, you'd see stuff in the other channels as well.
Yeah.
This is just in hydrogen alpha.
okay,
So it really is a region where hydrogen atoms are being excited.
but there's a concentration of them. Why are they forming a shell?
Why is it forming a shell? Well, I don't know. I don't know why Barnard's loop is like that, but it is.
It's a bit ironic because it's all this hydrogen coming together that collapses under gravity and then ignites and forms a star. And then once the star is there, or multiple stars are there, then they create a solar wind and then they tend to blow it all away from them. And that's kind of the bubble shape that you get, is my understanding anyways.
Okay,
Actually, that's a good topic for future speakers coming in explaining to us.
There's another one down here that is a really big one too.
Yeah.
and it should be quite easy to, since we know the distance, we could compare it to Barnard's loop, which is the one that we'd be most familiar with. Oh, and does Barnard's loop, is that a full bubble too? Like, do you see evidence of it being?
I don't know.
I don't know, but Wikipedia says it's seriously large. It actually says 10 degrees.
10 degrees. Wow.
Well, it would depend on where you're, if you're in Triangulum, it would depend on where you are as to how big it would appear. What is true is that on an absolute scale, these rings are huge.
Yeah, we're
To be
very
able to
close
see
to
them
Barnard's.
from a, see them out in a distant galaxy like that, they've got to be really huge.
Because we're something, I think we're what, maybe 8,000 light years from Barnard's loop, but that's a long, long way from the center of the triangle.
Another way to think about it is that this, whoops, I'm having trouble getting this thing down to size. Not quite sure why. But another way to think about it is that this galaxy is probably maybe not as large as ours, but it's pretty large. And whoops, sorry. So this galaxy might be, 50 or 100,000 light years across. So that's one way to scale how big they are. They're pretty big. And even the little ones are, tens of light years across.
So
At a minimum.
there's a lot of star-forming regions in this galaxy. Is there some reason?
Talk
why-
about loud,
Is there some reason why we have this much in the way of star-forming regions in this?
Oh, I read a bit about that too. This is not a normal galaxy because it doesn't have a bulge and it doesn't have a black hole in the middle. And they call it a flocculent galaxy, flocculent meaning fluffy. But it is why that leads to more star formation, I can't tell you, but it is a different type of galaxy than something like 90%, which have the bulge and the star and the what do you call the super giant black hole in the middle. If somebody knows more about it, please speak up. I've just started dabbling in it. My rabbit hole only went so far because we were kind of busy on Saturday.
Well, if you flocculate bits, they come together in clumps.
Yes.
So that's flocculation. So I imagine that it's clumps of hydrogen and material,
But that
which is how it gets its name.
flocculation and flocculence are terms we use in water treatment. If you're getting particles, fine particles in raw water, you add alum to them, and then it flocculates. You get particles that congratulate together.
Okay,
And you filter them out through sand filters. You make them big enough that they filter.
so that's where the name comes from. It's actually clumping together.
Clumping together.
So that's almost by definition going to be where you're going to make lots of stars. Yeah.
But yeah, this galaxy is very, very active compared to a typical galaxy too. So you generally wouldn't see this much.
But keep in mind, this is
I mean,
a quote amateur unquote image, which is just blows me away.
Very professional amateur.
Compared to, well, I mean, you have to give full marks to John for the processing, but I mean, the data was incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I give the highest marks to Gary for getting the data, which is amazing.
Dorothy, you
I
have
don't
a
know.
question? Oh, Dorothy has a question.
I don't know if any of you have seen the, let me just get out of this for a second.
And while John's doing that, Dorothy, did you have a question?
I was just going to say, again, as I did before, that black and white image is so much like what in the good sky one can see, obviously more, but certainly my understanding is that those regions are star-forming regions, and once the things get going, stars will form within them. That leads to the flocculent nature of the galaxy's global structure. And I think it is about 100, what was it? What did someone say? It's a slightly smaller diameter than the Milky Way. But see, there was one other thing I was going to say, and it slips my mind right now, but right.
Well, if you think about it, let us know.
Yeah, thanks for that. It was having to do with star-forming regions, but in any case, it's amazing picture, John. And oh, I know, I remember what it is. There's been lots of references recently, mentions of typical galaxies, and the more I read, and the more I look, I just wonder what a typical galaxy is.
I'm not sure there is one.
Comment.
I think
I think some pretty
they're all
famous-
unique.
I think some pretty
This
famous
one, if you think-
astronomers got
if you
into
think
trouble.
about the nebulosity in the Milky Way, it isn't spread out to the extent that this is, and there isn't nearly as much of it. So what kind of struck me when I saw this was how much of it was far out in the sort of in the thin parts of the spiral arms. It's interesting.
Yeah.
That's very different from what I was expecting. And I just wanted you to see this one with the color because it gives you a sense of, you know, what this might look like if you were inside the galaxy looking out. Be quite something.
And Reg, you have a question?
I just wanted to mention, just a sec. Am I muted?
No, we can hear you.
Oh, okay. In April 2017, I wrote an article on, I called Orion's Aura, and it's on in the Sky News. And this is actually based on a lecture that was given in 2014 by the student who won the Northcott lecture, Dr. Andy Pond. He was awarded this thing, and he was actually in England, and he did this presentation from England in the wee hours of the morning for our talk. But his PhD project was called the Orion Eridanus Super Bubble. And it talks about Orion's loop is one of the nested bubbles in this whole complex associated with Orion. It's really quite fascinating, and I encourage you, if you go on to the Victoria RASC Center, you can go to Sky News, and you can go to the April 2017 issue, and he goes on to it, and I got quite into this thing. It's one of the rabbit holes that went down. So if you are interested in it a little bit more, have a look at it. But the actual size of the Orion Eridanus super bubble is 20 degrees by 45 degrees swath of the sky. So imagine that coming towards us, and every day it is approaching us, and every day it's 9 million kilometers closer to the Earth. So it's coming to get you.
Start panicking now.
So is there one star in the middle of the bubble?
Oh,
No,
maybe-
it's a collection of all sorts of probably a cluster of supernovas that created these expanding shells, and the Barnard's Loop in particular is one of the very leading edges, or almost outside edges of a bubble. It's a shock wave expanding out there. It's absolutely fantastic. It was a really interesting presentation that he gave, and I had no idea this stuff was going on. But just imagine the size. If you look up at the sky, the size that this thing would project if we could see it. I tell you, you could really make a strong case to sell supernova insurance when this thing is looming towards you.
Thank you.
Okay,
Excellent.
Thanks, John.
I will stop the share.
Great. So I think Chris wanted to update us on the James Webb. And then I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about our starting to next week. Just that we're going to have that special general meeting.
Oh, yes.
So, but
Thank
maybe
you.
Chris first.
Thank you.
So Chris Gainor, are you there?
I am here. I'm just sharing my screen here.
Perfect.
So just a little bit about Webb is that they had a bit of a press conference today. NASA did, with some of the scientists, and they were showing off the slide at the bottom right that I have here with MIRI, which is actually the coldest instrument, and this is of a portion of the large Magellanic Cloud. But comparing it with the best view they could get through Spitzer, which was the most powerful infrared telescope launched up prior to Webb. So basically, everybody is just kind of blown away with how clear everything is, and they expect some exciting results when they come in. This afternoon I came across this little slide, which explains, I think, a little bit why the commissioning process is going to take some time. So they basically want to set up every instrument in all of these modes. I think between the four instruments here, there are 17 different modes or something like that. And so this is going to take a while. And anyway, they're talking about, I had been under the impression that we were going to start seeing some images in June, and I see they're talking about July, but anyway, we'll see. Today they were talking about July, but we'll see what they come up with in the end. I wouldn't be surprised if we see something in June still. But anyway, this just gives you a bit of an idea of what's going on next few weeks, getting all these different instrument modes set up. They have the basic focusing done for all of these instruments, including our own Canadian instrument, which is nearest, I believe. And so that's all I have to say today about Webb.
Thank you, Chris. Any questions for Chris?
Just a comment, Chris, if you put back that first picture that you showed, there's a side-by-side resolution of Spitzer along with the new instrument, and it's just an amazing improvement.
Yes, just a second, I'll put it back.
Yeah, on the bottom right, you got Spitzer versus the Webb for the same region, and holy smokes, look at it.
Yeah, I must say, you know, I've sort of gotten used to, you know, the images coming from infrared telescopes not being that exciting. And, you know, on one of my latter visits while working on the Hubble book, you know, I was talking to somebody down at the Institute, and I was kind of set right that they expected to get some good images. Of course, a lot of like everything, the bread and butter work will be done by, a lot of it anyway, by the spectrographs. But yeah, I think we're going to see some interesting things when Webb gets going.
Chris and John, I looking at the Webb Miri 7.7 micron image there. What intrigued me when I was looking at it earlier today is that there's the diffraction spikes around the brightest stars have got 8 points. Any thoughts of what would be causing? I'm used to 4 points, but not 8. Any thoughts on that?
Well, I don't. But
I don't remember the geometry exactly, but
I can answer it.
There's a lot more than just, you know, normally you just have two veins, which will give you spikes of the kind you're used to seeing, just one spike across and one down. But this has got multiple symmetries, so you get diffraction all over the place.
Yeah, I saw a video about it. You've got 6 of them from the hexagonal segments, and there's just that tiny little bit of diffraction at the edges of them. So that gives you the 6. And then from the tripod that holds secondary, it makes the one that goes horizontally across, so that you've got the 8, 6 from the mirrors, and then you've got another kind of a horizontal one going across because of the tripod. My question, and this is not really about the Webb, this is about any telescope. We see the diffraction patterns on the bright stars, and we don't with the little dim stars. And I'm wondering, is it just the magnitude and they're just fainter, or is there something fundamentally different between the stars that are making the diffractions and the ones that aren't.
They're not fundamentally different. It's just the intensity.
Okay.
Lauri, you have a question?
Yes, I was going to ask Chris, when these pictures of like with near spec and near can, are they all taking pictures in different places in the sky?
Well, they're very close to each other. But actually, you know, the layout of that big slide on the left is not accidental. It's actually what the cameras see in relation to each other, their fields of view. And, you know, and that's, you have a similar thing with Hubble. And near the back of my book, it's still in it's before you get to the appendices, but near the end of my book, I have sort of the similar layout for Hubble, where the instruments see in relation to each other. But this is the way it is for Webb. But they're actually this field of view is actually fairly small, even, you know, that whole area.
So this is how we will get it. Like if all of the instruments are taking pictures, this is what we'll get.
Yeah, and
one at a time.
And to be quite honest, I'm not sure, you know, how often they'll be using, you know, all the instruments or multiple instruments when they're imaging certain things. You know, like I think I know with Hubble, you know, you would have situations where they might have maybe two instruments taking images or data at the same time, not more than that. It's possible they might do the whole lot here, but I'm not sure.
Okay. I just was trying to get my bearings as to what I was looking at. That's all.
Yeah, yeah, and you know, so yeah, I'm going to be watching with great interest. You know, when we you know, when we can start getting lectures from people who are actually using JWST, because I'm still learning a lot about it.
Thanks, Chris.
Are there any more questions? Just an observation, I noticed that between the two there is rotated too. It's interesting. So it was where it shows up on the diagram there, it's upside down from the other one. Interesting.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Trying to get it.
There's no up and down in space.
Well, they
No, there isn't.
Yeah, they just matched it with.
They matched
Spitzer.
it, yeah.
Yeah.
They just matched
Yeah.
the Spitzer.
Make it match. You know, what they call. Great. So Randy, did you?
Okay. So next week, we're going to start the meeting with a special general meeting because there are some issues with our bylaws, and the way that you revise bylaws is by, you can do it at an annual general meeting, but then we would have to wait till February, and we want to get these things done ahead of time. Just out of curiosity, how many are we here tonight? I want to know.
30, it was 30 odd, 30.
Yeah, with us in the room.
We've
Yeah.
lost some now, we're down to 27.
Okay, but so we absolutely need 25 people for this part of the meeting to be a success. So please come, and we will send out something ahead of time. The main motivation for this was recognized during our annual general meeting, that the person that we have nominated to be our national rep is allowed to be national rep by the RASC national, but not by our own bylaws, because he is under 19. But we are extremely fortunate to have Jill Sinkwich as our secretary, and she was involved with working at the wording of the Societies Act and has worked with many organizations like ours. And she's been going through things with a fine-tooth comb and finding all sorts of interesting issues with our bylaws. Just remember that we have some very old bylaws, and then they got updated when they changed the Societies Act in British Columbia. And we kind of followed a template from national and the British Columbia, and there's some mutual contradictions in there. And so we're following process, and we're fixing these things. And I hate to say, but we're very likely going to have to do another SGM, special general meeting, in the autumn, because we found even more things, and it's enough already. You have to publish your amendment a month ahead of time, so everybody should have received before the by April 16th. Jill sent it out, and you can see what the wording is. I don't think there's anything controversial in it. We are just making our bylaws consistent with nationals. And so it will be short, and then we can get on with the fun part of the meeting. But do come to that, please. Oh, I see Jill up there with her hand up.
Yeah, I just want to say that there were actually 2 notices that went out, and the first one contained an error, and so things were changed, and the second one was sent out about a week later. So look for the second one, please. It's the one that has the correct Zoom link in it as well, and it also has the exact wording of what we're going to be voting on.
And it's been a pleasure working with you, Jill, on this one.
Likewise.
If it's any comfort, it may not be, but at national, we discovered that the people who changed the bylaws when the federal law changed basically developed the national law bylaw from cookie cutter stuff, and so at the national level, we have a lawyer on our board, and we've been going through it and making changes, and that's been going on for the last little while. And we'll probably continue to go on after I leave the board. So anyway. So we have the meeting next week, and then we take a break for Victoria Day, if my memory serves me right.
And then the last meeting will be on the 30th, and the rubber is hitting the road. We need volunteers. There's the person who's going to do the Joe job, which is making sure that the Zoom is all set up and is linked, and then is recorded, so that, because lots of people are watching this Astro Cafe afterwards, and I think it's a wonderful service that we're keeping people included that way. This is a huge innovation and addition to it. And I have to say, I like going back to old ones, because I remember somebody gave a really good discussion on this back in February, and you have that. So that is a really great resource. So there is the webmaster, or whatever we're going to call that job.
The Zoom guy.
The Zoom master.
The Zoomer.
And then there's the master of ceremonies, the Chris job. I did it last week, and it was kind of fun, but I do realize, and I pay homage to you, you do have to really pay attention what's going on. So, but please, it's not difficult. put your hand up. Tell Margie.
Kind of fun, actually.
It's kind of fun. And this is such a great community, but we got to do this we got to have more people. And I totally respect Chris and Joe's decision to take some time off. Plus, we need the volunteers on Saturday nights for the star parties. So this is a way to, if you want to be with other people, then come out on the Saturday nights. Oh, Lauri, what are hopes and dreams for star parties this summer?
Well, we have three definite ones coming up. May 21st, June the 4th, and June the 18th. So they're every 2 weeks in May and June. And then we're taking a break for the long weekend, that July long weekend. And then we still have to negotiate just a little bit, but we think that we're going to be going every Saturday night after whatever the start date is in July, that we'll be starting. And so having probably about 7 more, in July and August, through every Saturday night, like we did, when we were doing them every single week. So just it's like there's 2 weeks in between in the next couple of months, and then weekly after that. And we already have
that you need. What volunteer roles do you need? And
well, we certainly need people to come up and put their telescopes up on the deck or in the parking lot. Thanks to Jennifer and Peter came up, and Bill was there. I might have even missed somebody if I didn't get outside. We always need people there. I mean, obviously, if it's pouring rain, we don't expect you to come at all, but we'd like to have people up doing that. We need to have the RASC table, the welcome table, with a person or two on that table in the evening, which is really nice, because that's a really nice time to chat to everybody. And then we always have other roles that we need. One thing that we would love to have, if anybody's interested, is another person to help with the dome tours. That we have people to actually do the telescope work, because that needs to be specially trained with David Bolender. But we are going to be down a little bit this summer with people who actually can talk about the telescope and can actually give a tour to the public. And if anybody's interested in that, we have Cole's notes that you can kind of get yourself organized with. Many of you know more about it than I do, absolutely. We'd love to have you be a part of that. That's something that we are going to be down a little bit this summer with that one role. And then Reg, we'd love to have you and Sherry open up the 16. You're the only two who are trained on that machine. So that might be another thing that we might want to get another couple of people to be trained on that as well. That would be really helpful, like as backup of backup of backup. Yeah. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
David, you have your hand up?
I do. So in addition to what Lauri has mentioned for the star parties, over 2 years ago, I had hoped to kind of introduce EAA to the Hill. So I definitely need people. Now, I know there are people that were interested at the time, and we also have a SIG. So anybody who is interested, like now, this is the perfect time to have you let me know, because we need to start now. Like, we need to start sort of getting the pieces together, putting them together, and being able to take the scope out in the evenings. Now, in the beginning, I think maybe we'll be using targets like the moon, but there are other objects which would be quite suitable as well. So yeah, give that a thought.
Thank you. Yeah, so let David know.
And then have one more last thing. I'm sorry, I forgot. Is that okay?
Yeah, carry on.
The National RASC is having the annual general meeting, again virtually this year from June the 24th to June the 27th. So the Friday to the Monday. Friday night is kind of a welcome, and we have Robert Cardinal is going to be our main speaker. On Saturday, we have 3 concurrent sessions going on pretty well all day. So 3 different kind of thematic sessions. And then Saturday night, we have Natalie Willette is going to be our, oh my goodness, not Northcott, Helen Sawyer Hogg, Sawyer Hogg lecturer. And then on Sunday, we have the morning, or I guess like for us, it would be the morning is going to be some more presentations and sessions. And then the afternoon is the general meeting that is going to be there. And then in the evening, we have Sarah Seeger is going to be speaking to us under kind of some special conditions, which you will find out when you come to the meeting. And then then Monday, we're going to be having again virtual field trips. And we have got 4 of them, 4 virtual field trips to going to 4 different places in Western Canada and in Ontario. And we're
Oh dear.
Lost her connection.
Yeah.
Aw.
I think we've lost Lauri. Hopefully she can, her internet will bounce back in a second, but
She's so far north, she's frozen.
there we are. Oh, well, maybe not.
Hazards of Wi-Fi.
Yeah,
But that sounded really good.
Yeah,
yeah,
Wow.
pretty ambitious.
yeah. Any other comments about that? I think
Or we did.
I think we're frozen.
No, I see people
No, we're
moving.
okay.
we're moving. Hold on a second.
Can you hear us? Yep, okay.
Yeah, I can hear you.
There, okay. No, I think it just somehow we left Lauri's frozen session on the screen there.
I can hear you, and I'm even further north than Lauri is, so there you go.
So obviously you're, and I see Lauri is back, I think on the phone. Hold on a second. I think you're muted, Lauri. Lauri, you're muted.
Okay, sorry, I'm,
Oh, no.
that was a blip. So the one thing that I just wanted to say was that we are still looking for for submissions for people to give member presentations. And they're kind of half an hour sessions, like 20 minutes of talk, 5 minutes or so of question and answer and discussion at the end of the things. We're looking for anyone who would like to give a presentation on something that they're passionate about, or that they'd like to do, and it can be quite technical. We do have one kind of set, so that if you'd like to give something that you're really working on for research, or that's a little bit more highly technical, there's a place for that. We also have got some room for kind of more generalized programming that would be for maybe newer observers or the public. And Nathan Hellner is going to also give a presentation of some of the things that he's been doing in our youth programming. So the form, the submission form is online, and if you're interested, we've got till May the 15th, which is next week, that we're taking submissions up to then. So it's just very short. All we need is just some information and a little bit of a summary from you, and then we can get you into some of the programs. So I mean, we've got some fabulous people right here sitting in front of me that we'd love to have some of your expertise, and so please think about putting something in. Just email me if you'd like to, and I can send you the quick form to fill out. So I'm done now. Thank you.
Does anybody else have anything? Anything in the room?
Just another big thank you to David and Lauri. We had a big, it brought the community together. And we thank you for that.
Well, thank you.
So if there's nothing else for this evening, we can wrap it up because we only have a few minutes left in this room anyway. So, well, thank you everyone for attending this evening, and hope you've been able to hear us and see us. And we'll be back next week.
Good night.
Very good.